Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So it is the summertime, which in my opinion is the perfect time to update your resume since recruiting season is around the corner. And if you are a student, you can update with any jobs, experience, leadership, positions, and things like that. I personally have not updated my resume in almost like a year, maybe like 10-ish months since I've last updated my resume. So I wanted to change that today. I wanted to go ahead and update my resume, and because of that I wanted to show you guys how I go about doing that at just like a high level, and then go ahead and share some of my top tips when it comes to making your resume as effective and impactful as possible. So if you're interested in that, make sure to stay tuned for the rest of this video. Also, quick note, if you are interested, I offer resume and career resources and services to you guys. So that includes resume reviews, resume rewrites, like LinkedIn audits and edits, as well as like interview prep for like in the form of a one-on-one call. If you're interested in any of that or you want to learn more, definitely check out the link below to book. Go ahead and book or order a resume review for yourself. So that is all. Now let's get into the video. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start off with the general tips that I have when it comes to editing your resume before I go into actually like showing you guys my personal one. And these are tips that I have just gathered over time of editing people's resumes and like reading over different ones. I've also worked in human resources for a couple of years, so I've just gotten used to seeing what is effective and what like stands out versus what doesn't. So yeah, that's kind of how I've gathered my list of things that I'm going to share with you guys today. So the first tip. This is something that probably one of the biggest things that I tell people when I review a resume, when I'm working with just even other students. Like the biggest thing that you want to do, especially like in the experience section or leadership section, you want to quantify as much as possible. What does this look like? Quantifying is basically just adding descriptions to the bullets that you already have, but with adding numbers to describe whatever you're doing. So just elaborating a little bit more with the actual like quantities of what you did. That is such a great way to take your resume from like a weak one to a strong one, because it really shows like the actual impact that you have. What does quantifying actually look like in the sense of a resume? So this can look like taking a bullet that says something like, say you're like the president of an organization, or like community service director. Instead of saying led organization members in community service events. So that's on its own. It's like, okay, cool, like you care about your community, you're a leader, that is something that you did. You led and you organized like community service events. But on the other hand, you could also say led 125 org members in bi-weekly community service events. That is so much better. That is like, that really shows one that like the frequency at which you have these events, which takes like the level, like the magnitude of that action like to another level, and also stating the number of members that you organize that with like also shows the magnitude of what you did in that position. So adding things like that makes such a huge difference. So whether it's adding how frequently you did a task, how many people you worked with in a task, like how many times you did it. So if you often organized like spreadsheets or made decks, you can put the number that you did that in the time of your internship, or like how many times a week you have to do something like that. Wherever you can insert numbers in a way that is not like overkill, do it. Okay, the next thing that I think is super important when it comes to your resume is sticking to 3 to 4 bullets per activity that you list. If you have some experience with like maybe 2 bullets, I think that's okay, but I think like 2 bullets is fine for maybe like 1 or 2 activities max on your resume. If it only has 2, I think it could be time to let that thing go, honestly, or find a way to add a 3rd bullet. And on the other hand, if you feel like you need more than 4, there are very few circumstances where I think it's necessary to have more than 4. I think there's always a way to make whatever you're saying more concise, whether that's combining bullets that you think can work well together, or just cutting something out altogether that you don't think actually shows the skills that you gained from that. So I think sometimes in resumes we want to describe as much as possible what we did, but we need to, like, since there's not a lot of space like that you have to talk, like I think it's important to make sure that each bullet that you have highlights a skill that ideally is a transferable skill that you have from that experience, rather than just listing that just listing your everyday task, if that makes sense. So when it comes to shortening an activity section, try and take away what doesn't actually show a skill and it's just a description, and then next, like, look where you can combine. This next thing is something that I think we all already, okay, this next thing is something that I feel like we all know that is like preached a lot when it comes to resume, but I think there's a way to do it that actually accomplishes the goal of doing it in the first place. That is starting your bullets with an action verb. That is something that we all know. Start with action verb. Don't start with a weak regular word. You want to start with a verb, but in addition to that, you want to share the outcome of that action. I think that's where a lot of people fall off. You want to share what you did and what the result of doing that was, or maybe even the reason why you did it. And I feel like that really makes the bullet count, because you can list all the stuff that you did, but if there was no results, if there's no impact, if the resume reader cannot see the point of you doing that, or why like it was worth putting on, or why that was like that's a necessary thing, honestly, bullet like is weakened, like it loses its value. Okay, so I'm gonna take one of my bullets for my resume as an example. So I'll read the first half, and the second half to show what I mean, like showing the reason or the impact of what you did.
Okay, with this experience, each bullet follows two parts, one being explaining what I actually did, and then the second part being why I did it and what the purpose behind my action was. So with the second bullet, I said, oversee entire SaaS code review project to contribute a process improvement proposal for National Chase Branch Controls. So one, I explained the what. I said I oversaw a project, cool. Then I proceed to explain why I did it, and that was to contribute a process improvement proposal. So they know I oversaw the project so that I could create the proposal. And then I further explain why I did it by sharing the magnitude of the proposal, and it was for National Chase Branch Controls.
Yeah, that simple elaboration shows that I care about the results and the impacts of the things that I do. So I think that's really important. And you could also share why you were doing it. I think you can also share the outcome in the sense of like, I did this, which resulted in XYZ. So like, I changed the way that we organize our products in the store. This resulted in increased sales by this much. Stuff like that. Okay, on to the next. This is completely just visual and like aesthetic purposes, but I think it really does make a difference in your resume. And so that is to order your bullets from shortest to longest. I think this is a great way to make your resume easier on the eyes for recruiters to read. They already only spend like 7 seconds looking at each resume, and so you want to make yours as appealing as possible, and you want to make someone want to read it for longer. And so organizing from shortest to longest makes each line easier to read. Honestly, like it's really easy to get lost in resumes often when they're not organized this way, but when you do it from shortest to longest, you can make use of the white space around, and it's just better to look at, honestly. And I think it makes a really big difference. It takes like 5 minutes to do, and I think it's completely worth doing. Okay, the next thing, please do not use Google Docs or Microsoft Word templates. Please contrast the last tip that I gave. I think they waste a lot of space on the paper. Your resume should be 1 page, and it encourages you to put a lot of information that is not necessary, and that is not what you want to do in a resume. I think it's great to just have a simple black and white 11-point font layout of all the information that you want to put on there. I think there is a time and place for maybe like more colorful, more fun resumes, but when it comes to corporate America and typical 9-to-5 job, yeah, I think stick with the plain stuff. I personally use the McCombs resume format because I went to the University of Texas at Austin and studied in the School of McCombs, and so they had us all put our resumes in this format. I think it's one that is super functional, and I recommend it to literally everyone who asks me about resume formatting. Put it in McCombs format or one that is similar to this. Okay. And this last tip is not really a tip, it's just an opinion that I have and wanted to share, and that is that even though people often say in the job hunt that you'll need to create a bunch of different resumes to cater to each one, I personally don't think that you have to do that. I think that can take a lot of time and make the job searching process way more complicated, time consuming than it has to be. I think there is a way to cater your resume to a job, but it doesn't have to be each position. You change the words on your resume to fit the tracking software that they have. If you're in college, and this is really catered to college students, honestly, it's real people that look at your resumes, and so you don't have to worry about having the specific keywords on there. I think you could use the same resume to apply to multiple jobs, like in the same fields. I understand switching from field to field, or if it's a pretty drastic change of a different job, adjusting your resume a little bit, but I don't think that you have to go in and change it for every job. I think that is a waste of time, and it doesn't do what like you may think it's doing. Like, please save your time and don't do that. I think there is a way to customize your resume to a job, and I'll show you guys the way that I think you should do that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and show you guys the way that I think you can customize a resume to like specific jobs without going in and editing your resume every time. I think if you do a good job of describing each activity and making them strong, you shouldn't need to edit every time. Okay, I'll go ahead and put it over here. Okay, so this is my experience section, and we're gonna pretend that, okay, and there are 4 experiences here, but we're gonna pretend that only these top 3 are on here. This workforce one is not there. It's I don't have it on there, and I want to apply to a job that like is a management position, and just in some sort of like people managing position. And to cater my resume to the application, since my workforce solutions job isn't on there, but it was an administrative job and had to do like working with others, it was a nonprofit, I feel like it's relevant to a management position. I'm going to take off this experience of JP Morgan, which I don't think is relevant to the job that I'm applying for, and replace it with workforce solutions. And I don't have to go in and edit each bullet because, well, ideally I'm going to edit them today, but say post editing, it's like, okay, I made them good, like the bullets are already good, I just input the job and that's it. Like that is me catering my resume to the specific job, rather than going in and changing every word on my resume to make it match the job description that they listed. And if you don't have experience to just be mixing and matching, especially like if you're a college student, that is completely fine. Like don't worry about that. There are ways to make your resume strong, and if you make each activity, if you make every experience that you have on there strong, you'll be good. Like it'll pay off. It's okay. Like you don't have to have all the experience in the world. People are very understanding of that.
I completely forgot to record an outro for this video, so sorry about that. But I really hope this video helped. Thanks for watching. If it did help or you have any questions, definitely comment down below, or check the description box for how you can get in contact with me for anything related to resumes, related to job search, career, anything like that. Thanks so much.